This day was so full, I had to break the video into two parts. This video is Kursi and Bethsaida, and the next is Capernaum, Korizim, and the boat ride.
You knew that. You're in the nave.
Yeah.
Built by the Byzantines.
True.
But they built. Why did they build one here? You remember the story? Will read it this morning of Jesus said he was on the other side, and you can't see it over the trees, but from Capernaum, which is over here, we're on the north end. Capernaum, we'll go to there a little later. Capernaum, he's over there in that area, and he says, "Let's go to the other side and get in the boat, and we're coming over here." Where you are. And then the storm came up. And Jesus is asleep, and then the storm and all. And we often think, well, he said, "Hush, be still," and he stilled the storm. But it actually says, it says in Matthew, he rebuked the storm. Remember that? They rebuke. It's different. When you rebuke a person. You rebuke stuff. You don't, And so what was he doing? He was on his way here, and suddenly the wind was blowing from where we are that way, which it doesn't normally do. It does at times. It comes off that hot desert and blows in here and creates quite a storm. But what Jesus saw was he was being opposed. In the ministry he was set upon was being opposed spiritually. He didn't rebuke the wind. We don't rebuke water. Water can't hear you. He rebuked the source behind the storm. There was a demonic opposition trying to prevent him from arriving here where we are. Why? There was only one man. When Jesus arrived, there was one man he helped. The boat pulls to the shore, and out here out of the hills and out of some of the cemeteries, we've actually been up by some of this. There's a city right up here. What was the name of it? On the hill. Yes, people. Yes, right up here. It's one of the big cities, probably one of the Decapolis. Anyway, and it's right up here. And the Gentiles bury their dead, in graves, and then they put food on top of the grave. They still do it in countries. You can go to countries with oranges or I see bottles of beer.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's pretty strange.
Yeah.
And they're feeding the dead.
Crazy.
They're feeding the spirit of the dead. Well, so this man is so full of demons. They bind him with chains. He breaks them. They can't keep him. He gashes himself. Remember this? He can absolutely torment, and he's got this supernatural power from the devil. He's just full of demons. And he will go through the graveyard picking that food off the grave, eating it. That's how he's living. He's living off the stuff that people put out for their dead. And he's up here in the hills, and he sees Jesus at the boat. He sees Jesus, and he comes out of the hill, gashed, naked, chained. Jesus doesn't even talk. He sees him coming, and as he's coming, without any communication, he reads the whole thing scripture. He casts this thing out. He commands it up, and the thing starts talking out of him. Have you come to torment us out of the time? See, the demons, I won't go through the whole theology of that, but there's part of the demons that are already cast into the pit. And they're saying, have you come to do that, Son of God? They know who you are. And Jesus, they said, let us go into the pit. Do you remember that? And as Mickey already pointed out, this is the Gentile side. They're growing pigs over there.
Sure.
No problem. So he said he gave them permission. They want to inhabit something. Notice that. They don't like to be. They want to inhabit something. So he let them go into the pigs. How many pigs were affected? 2,000. This man is absolutely infested with this thing. There he is in his right mind finally, sitting at the feet of the Lord, and he says, as Jesus, basically, the people, when they saw this, they came out from the towns hearing about what went on, And what was their response? You would think like, whoa, the Savior's here.
Get out of here.
Their
That's my
response
food.
was, get out of here.
Yeah, you ruined my food.
Don't get any more of our food.
Yeah.
You know, this is the pig killer.
Because the pigs went into the sea.
Yeah, the pigs ran
So
into
therefore,
the
no
sea.
pork.
Doesn't really say they went down, fell off a cliff, by the way.
Doesn't really say that.
Again, it's another bad translation.
Yeah, where'd they
The
go?
Greek, they went down a slope.
They ran off anyway.
Yeah, I studied that.
Okay.
Anyway,
Curious.
so the pigs are in the water, and then the man says to Jesus, what?
No.
Can I come with you? Remember this?
Yes. He
Can I
wants to go.
Can I come with you? I'll be your disciple. And then it seems really cold. Jesus says, no, you can't come with me. You stay here. You go back to your people and you tell them what I've done. Later on, you read the first encounter. Later on, he comes back. And the next time he comes back here, there's a remarkable miracle. He has an enormous crowd of people who come this time to hear him. Because that one man did his job.
Yes, he did.
And in this place was the place that Jesus took bread and he broke it and he fed the 4,000. And you remember this?
Yeah.
And then he says they picked up basket loads of and this time they picked up how many basket loads of leftovers of fish and loaves here? 7. He did the same sort of miracle over there, like Capernaum. And then they picked up how many basket loads?
12.
1 for each tribe of Israel. He's showing his sword. 7. Why 7? The Gentile nations. There were 7 Gentile nations in the land of Canaan when they came here. They understood that. And this is where the story goes on. This one man, this demon-possessed man who brought all of these, and they all came. This place that you're in right now became a center for Christianity for hundreds of years. The reason you have a church here is because this very place sent bishops to, like, the great Nicene councils and all of these things came from Kursi.
Wow.
This became for hundreds of years, whereas Christianity got driven out of all kinds of places. Where you are right now remained a Christian stronghold. This is where Christianity took place. That one demon man. You see why the devil hated his guts and was so crushing him. You'll be interested to note that people who have an assignment from the Lord often have the worst assault from hell. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
You see it in some of your children.
Yeah.
The ones with the call on their life, they just get battered. The enemy knows. And so here, as Jesus was approaching this, to deliver this one wonderful man, all hell broke loose. So Jesus stood up and rebuked the storm. Peace be still. He shut up the devil. And the thing died. And the storm died, and they came across and got that one man who then did his job and evangelized the whole area. And this became the Christian center for Palestine.
We do the orientation first because you guys are disoriented right now. I'll tell you why. Because you're not looking orient. Orient is the Greek word. Anybody knows the etymology? East. Right. The word east. You are occidented now. You're looking occident. You're looking west. Okay, looking west. What do you see in the west? Can you see the mountain, the hill or the mountain there on the west? Right? That's Galilee. Galilee. Hills of Galilee. Can you see the mountains on the east? All of it? All the mountains on the east? Golan. The Golan. We are in the middle, between Golan and Galilee. Does it make sense? We're in between, in the valley. There's a river in the valley. Anybody knows what the name of it?
Jordan.
Jordan. There's not a river. Huh? So there's Jordan River here that separates the Golan, which are in Asia, and Galilee, which is Africa. Okay, 2 continents. All right, and the river is the separation between the two. And notice where the city has been built in the middle of the river, somewhat where the mouth of the river was, not anymore, but was. Because today the river, we will see that after we finish here, is by the trees on that side, on the western side of the hill. Okay, but in the ancient times, a big mouth, and the city would be standing on the water. Okay, on the mouth of the River Jordan. And because of that, it has an important geographical location between the hills on one side and the hills on the other side, one bank of the river, another bank of the river. So the city would serve as a bridge. Maybe there was no literal bridge, but maybe there was ferry of some boats that will take you from one side to another and vice versa. Hence the name of the city, Gishur, Gesher Bridge. Can I say bridge town? Do you guys have bridge towns back home? Here we go. This is a bridge town, right? So that's Gishur, that existed as a separate kingdom when Joshua conquered this land. Right? When Joshua conquered the land of Canaan, he did not conquer this area. It remained a separate kingdom. It was not a big kingdom, a relatively small kingdom, and it had to play balance between bigger kingdoms, like the kingdom of Israel on one side, and the kingdom of the Arameans. Aram. The capital of Aram is a very ancient city of Damascus, which is 45 miles this way to the east, in Syria today. Syria is Greek name. Okay, biblical name for Syria is Aram in the Old Testament. Okay, Aran. Okay. And Damascus was the capital city of Aram, and it was a strong kingdom. So this one, Gishur, was in between. And that is why the king of Gishur, some 3,000 years ago, opened a gate to a rival to the king of the Jews. Who was the first king of the Jews? We know that was Saul. Who was his rival, quote unquote? David. So that is why this city opened its gate, and you can see the gate. We're at the gate right now. The city opened this gate, or the king of the city opened this gate to the possible rival of the king of the Jews, because they were sort of rivaling with the Jews. They were afraid of the Jews, right? And as soon as they knew, the king here knew that there is an eternal struggle amongst the Jews, he would play politics. Okay, and he welcomed a rival, and this rival was David. So David and his men were hiding here for a while. How about that? And you are standing at the gate that goes back to this time period. Okay, so this is 3,000 years old gate complex. You can see that there would be a wooden doors. 1, 2, 3 wooden doors. That would be also protected by the wall. The wall will go down. There will be another gate down below. So this would serve as somewhat as a marketplace. Somewhat of a marketplace. You can see an altar and the main god that would be the god of the city. And this god is a bull, right? You can see big horns, and the big horns are holding the moon disk. Again, we're coming back to the worship of the moon, like in Jericho, if you remember. Okay, Jericho. So this city was also was dedicated to the moon disk. The moon worship was very popular. especially in Babylon. Very popular, okay? And that's this influence from Babylonian worship of the moon. Notice how our month goes, right? By the moon, right? So the word month, moon, right? In English, what's the first day of the week?
Monday.
Moon day.
Moon day. It's a moon day, right? Okay. So it echoes ancient worship of the moon. Okay, and the calendar was divided into 4 weeks, 27 days. Why is that? It's a circle of the moon, right? When we see the moon. So the moon was worshipped here in the shape of a bull, powerful bull with a sword. And you can see that here. It's a pagan shrine here. They didn't sacrifice people, so you girls can continue sitting down there. You would put a little bit of maybe grain or oil or something. Here a little. And that's just out of respect. You respect this moon god when you come in here. Okay, so that's the idea. And so David was hiding with his men, was hiding here. And in order to strengthen connection with David, the king of Geshur, we know his name at that time, a fellow named Talmai, made some kind of a covenant with David, a treaty with David. And in ancient times, the treaties were sealed by marriages. You can see the logic here. If I marry king's daughter, the king becomes part of my family. In other words, it's less likely that I will go fight against my father-in-law. Okay, so that's the logic behind. So David married the daughter of the king here. The daughter's name was Maacah, which would not tell you much. You probably wouldn't remember the name. However, later on, when David became a king in Judah, David and Maacah had a child, and that was the favorite son of David. And you would remember his name. Nope. Absalom. Unfortunately, the Absalom did not fit David's shoes. Right? He was not a good son. And as you remember, he killed the firstborn David's son, Avner, and he ran away in a coup. After that, he was afraid that David will be angry with him. He ran away, and guess where he ran away to? To his grandparents, to his mother's side, and that's here, to this kingdom, right, to this city. So Absalom was hanging in this city for, we think, about 3 years or so by that time. And then David, if you remember the story, in the Bible forgave him. But that didn't help much to the story and to Absalom, and he rebelled against David again. And so that was very, very unfortunate. And he died. He was killed. Okay? But that's Absalom's mother's side here in this city. All right? Now, David apparently became a very, very powerful, very successful king, and he was able to subdue this kingdom. Right, and he had a victory over this kingdom, and it became part of this area, became part of the northern kingdom of Israel, and was destroyed together with the destruction of the northern kingdom of Israel in the 8th century. Was destroyed. The city was destroyed. Okay, and by the Assyrians. By the Assyrians, we will talk about this kind of major destruction tomorrow when we see that. And what we'll do now, we will walk through the city to the New Testament part and talk a little bit about the New Testament.
Just standing stones.
Oh yeah. Can you friends see the standing stones? They're oftentimes mentioned in the Bible. They would represent deities or represent God. And if you notice, they are smashed. we said that the Old Testament city of Geshur disappeared, was destroyed by the Assyrians in the 8th century, and it was pretty much abandoned. Nobody lived here, and then it was restored by the Jews again. Can I take you to the Jewish history briefly? Right? The Jews returned, remember, from Babylon, but they were restricted mostly to Judah because they were Judeans, and only later they extended their territory when they defeated the Greeks, because the Greeks ruled this territory as well. Remember Alexander the Great?
Mm-hmm.
Alexander the Great conquered the Middle East, and there was a Greek rule over here. And the Jews apparently rebelled against the Greek rule in the year 168 BC. And the rebellion became successful, and we were able to become independent kingdom, independent from the Greeks. And we still celebrate this independence. So we technically have two independent holidays. One that we celebrated yesterday, it's the modern day of Israel since 1948. And the other one, we celebrate the independence from the Greeks, which is known to us as Hanukkah, dedication. Hanukkah, or dedication, which is mentioned in the New Testament when Jesus was in Jerusalem in the temple during the celebration of the dedication holiday. That's the Hanukkah, liberation from the Greeks, which would be about 150 years in the days of Jesus. About. Okay. So the Jews extended their rule over here, and what they started to do, the policy started to do, is to repopulate this territories that became Jewish. There was nobody, right? So now you want to repopulate them, and they encouraged Jewish people to come and settle here. Where these Jewish people came from? Judah. They came from the south. They came from the places like Jerusalem, places like Bethlehem, or any other city in the south. But then we lost our independence about 100 years later. It was a short-lived independent state, 100 years only. We lost it to the Romans. Okay? And then the Romans, as you know, were interested in doing what? Collecting taxes. That is why they required the people who lived here to go back to their ancestry. And where is their ancestry? Back in Judah. So that is, it's illustrated in the gospel by Jesus' family going where? To Bethlehem, because that's where they originated from. Okay, why Jesus originated from Bethlehem and not, say, from Jerusalem? Because David was native to Bethlehem, if you remember, and he is a descendant of David, an offshoot of David, right? And David was native to Bethlehem. Okay, that's why the family had to go to Bethlehem for registration, tax policies, whatever, and then they came back to Galilee, not to this city. They lived in a different city called Nazareth. Okay, that you can see the process why, or the logic why they had to go back to Judah, right? And then they're coming back here. And here in Bethsaida we have 5 of Jesus' friends, disciples, that actually lived here. Remember we said Peter and Andrew, James and John, right? And Philip most likely came from here. And when you look at this, you can say, Mickey, wait a minute, there's not much to see here. It's really, really humble little town. Well, maybe that's what God wants to teach us. That out from a very humble, very little town, some very powerful people can come up. So this is kind of interesting as well. Okay? And Jesus comes here And one of the greatest miracles of Jesus has happened right here at Bethsaida. It's a little difficult to define what is the greatest miracle of Jesus. However, how about if we do it by this definition? Anybody knows what is the miracle that is mentioned in all the four Gospels? You'll be surprised. There's only one. Nope. 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 There's only one miracle that is mentioned in all the four Gospels. Feeding of the 5,000. The feeding of the 5,000 is the only miracle that is mentioned. So maybe because it was very important. Okay? Maybe because it was very important. And only Luke refers or gives us the name of the place where that happened. And we see that in Luke 9. I'll do that real quick. Jesus took the disciples with him, and they withdrew by themselves to a town called Bethsaida. So only this passage in Luke is giving us the physical reference to Bethsaida. So somewhere in the area of Bethsaida, this miracle took place. And remember, we discussed two episodes, 5,000 and 4,000, where we were, right? 4,000 where we were. That's really, really interesting. Can I just add one word to that, or one sentence to that? Remember, here with the 5,000, it's at Bethsaida, which is a Jewish town, by the way, right? Jewish town, not Gentile, Jewish town. And remember how many leftovers we have? We mentioned that. 12 baskets, right? 12 baskets. The 12 represents what? Tribes, right? The disciples, right? 12. The tribes of Israel. So it's a sign of a Jewish connection, right? That's the Jewish world, the salvation of the Jews. And if we read about the feeding of the 4,000 that we came from, right? We mentioned that the number of the leftovers is different. 7. So in order to amplify that, if I may, real quick, very, very quick, can I give you a quote from Joshua 3? Joshua 3, and it says in verse 9, Joshua said to the Israelites, "Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is with you." This is how you will know that the living God is with you, that the living God is amongst you, that he will certainly drive out before you Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. And if you count, it will be 7 nations, non-Jewish nations. So that's how you will know, in a very practical way, that God is with you. And so 7 nations, and now Jesus restores this nation, and he offers the salvation to this nation again. So the Jewish on the one side, the Gentile on the other side, they receive the salvation. They have the way, they see the way to the salvation, to redemption. Okay, so I thought it might be really interesting and important for us, because we're here as a result of that, so to speak.
From Bethsaida, we went to Capernaum. That's part 2 of the video.